Alright, this series of movements for the core conditioning library is, we're going to deal with rotational movements. As I've said before in the past, we're not just going to show a bunch of crunching variations and crunching exercises, okay? So we're going to do some different sorts of movements that still work the quote-unquote core. So the first exercise I'm going to show is a tubing rotation or a band rotation. So you can use a regular piece of tubing like this. Some of the super bands will work fine as well. And you really just need a sturdy column to put it around to secure the piece of equipment that you're using. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to go through the proper setup and a couple of cues and just show you a few repetitions as an example. So I like this band to be pretty much parallel with the ground. So if my arms come straight out, they're parallel with the ground, and that band is as well. Okay, there's different variations where it's lower, so you're going to move more at a diagonal angle or down. So diagonal angle down as well, which I'll talk about in a future series of movements. But for this one, we're just going to keep that band straight, okay, parallel to the ground the whole time. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to take a stance that's perpendicular to the anchor point. A common mistake I see with this exercise is people arm the movement, and what I mean by that is really the only things that move are the arms. So if I'm here doing the exercise, all that's really moving right now are just my arms, okay? So what we want the arms to, like I like to say, is they come along for the ride, okay? So we're moving from the core, so I want to rotate more from the shoulders, the abs, the obliques. Think about, we're focusing on the love handles. For all these exercises, I think it's important to focus on the muscles that we're using. And again, in this case, it's more of the oblique muscles, okay? So, again, the stance, we're going to be perpendicular to the anchor point. I want the arms extended. They don't have to be locked out here where we lose that shoulder integrity. So shoulders are down and back. You can have a slight bend in the elbows, but they're relatively straight, the arms, the whole time, okay? And what I mean by turning the shoulders from the shoulders and abs is this. So you can see at the beginning of the movement, my shoulders are pointed that way, and at the end, they're going to be pointed this way. All right, so I'll show a few repetitions. Here to here. So I'm using my feet as guidelines basically. So I'm just going foot to foot. There's no reason to rotate all the way through. I'm just keeping my hands here, foot to foot, foot to foot. Another key is when I bring that tubing back, I don't want slack on the strap here, on the tubing here. If there's slack, or if I lose tension on the strap, then I lose tension on the muscles, and I want to keep them engaged the entire time. Okay? So just make sure that you're far enough away so when you come to this point here, there's still a bit of tension. Obviously, the most tension is going to be the furthest point away here, but we still want a bit of tension here. So if I'm too close, when I bring it back, then it comes down. So you see this a lot too. All right, so again, you want to keep it parallel with the ground, far enough away, and of course, if you want to make it more challenging, you can do two things. You can step further away, which will provide more resistance, or to get a thicker band, of course, as well. So let me just show you a few more reps. As far as the foot, it's about shoulder width apart, feet straight ahead, slight bend in the hips and knees. So just an athletic stance as far as the lower body goes. Again, arms extended, turn the shoulders and abs. You want to keep that core braced the whole time, and you're going to rotate out. This is one that I like to involve a little bit of speed with as well. If I'm working with maybe an MMA athlete or something like that, I may have a target mitt here, and I want them short, quick, tight movement, hitting that pad back and forth, so they're working on that rotary speed the whole time. Okay? All right, this exercise in the rotation series is going to utilize the TRX rib trainer. I love this tool for unilateral exercises, meaning just kind of utilizing one side of the body at a time. So the setup on this one is quite similar actually to the tubing or band rotations that I've showed already. So again, about a shoulder width stance with the feet, just athletic positions, slight bend in hips and knees. And then as far as the hand position, you can vary it, and that's going to change some of the intensity. So the common hand position is bottom of the black handles, so left hand here, right hand here, okay? If I bring this top hand, if I bring this top hand down further during the exercise, it's going to make it more challenging. So just so you know, you have some variability in difficulty depending on where you place that hand, okay? I'm going to stick with a more traditional position for the demonstration. So everything else is pretty similar. Arms are extended. One difference is at the end of the movement, you can almost think about in like a combat athlete or a fighter or a boxer, you can almost extend it out as if you're throwing a little bit of a punch. So you get this extension here, which I really like, especially for boxers, combat athletes, that sort of thing. but for the general population as well. So I'll show a few repetitions first and then kind of break down the movement. So we start here with the hands slightly, elbows slightly bent. As I rotate the whole body, I'm going to extend that arm all the way through. Okay, so this one here, I like to get that whole body involved. So you can see that's one big difference is I'm not just keeping my feet square and just rotating arms and shoulders. I'm getting really that movement coming from the ground up, okay? So I'm not only just turning the shoulders, abs, but I'm also rotating the hips a bit and pivoting off that back foot. So I get the whole body involved, all right? So let me show you again. Arms out, slight bend in the elbows, rotate, shoulders, abs, hips, all the way down to that back foot, and then come back to that center position, okay? This one is really simple to change variations as far as angles go. So we're just sticking with keeping this parallel, but there's no reason I can't go down, bring it up. Okay, so you can have some variability with your angle of movement as well. You can change the hand position here, make it more of like a hockey shot, they call it, where you come down and extend this way. Up here, lacrosse type of movement up there as well. So the hand position can change as well. So you've got a lot of different options. And just like the tubing, the further away I am, this is a piece of tubing in here, so the further away I go, the more challenging it'll be. And I also like the range of motion is to come through, but I don't want to come back, so there's a bunch of slack here. So I don't want to be back here, because now when I'm here, there's a lot of slack here. So just like the tubing variation, I want to try to keep tension on those muscles the entire time. We want to keep those guys working throughout the exercise. So you can see there's still some tension, it's not as much as the end of the movement, but there's still tension there the whole time. This version in the rotation series is actually going to be an isometric movement. So I think these iso hold variations are important as well in all exercises. So a lot of the rotational movements require movement. This one is a lack of movement. So we're still definitely working those core muscles. Think of a traditional plank exercise on your forearms and toes. A great movement, great kind of foundation movement to start to build some core strength before you move on to some more dynamic things. You can do that as well from a standing position. So I'm just going to use a column here. You can do it with a partner as well, or really anything that's not going to move. So the basic setup is just like most of them, athletic stance. Slight bend in hips and knees, core engaged. We're going to have our arms out, and it's important when those arms are out. I want them to be parallel with the ground, hands together. We want shoulders down and back, so we don't want to be up here. Okay, I don't want the arms here, so they're not locked out straight, but there's just a slight bend. Okay, and everything's engaged and braced. Okay, so I'm here, and to demo the exercise with this column here, I'm just going to put the outside of this hand against the column. And what I would do if I maybe had a group of athletes or general population clients, you know, everyone at a column doing this exercise, I would probably have them get set. And I would time it, I would have them brace for 10 to 15 seconds, relax, and either switch sides or repeat for a couple of reps on each side. So there's not much to show, obviously, with this movement because there is no movement. But this is the setup, and then if I'm going to brace, I would press. So I'm pressing into the band, into the column with some force to the left. So I'm trying to move that column. And when I do this, not only do my glutes fire up, but a big part of my obliques fire up on this right side of the body because I'm trying to push this way. So if I make it into a movement, if I push this way, this part of my body's engaged. Okay, so what I was saying is you could do it with a partner as well. They would be facing you, and basically my hands are against their hands, and we're just pushing in opposite directions, so there's no movement at all. It's ideally you're going to partner up like folks, meaning they have similar strengths. So you don't want a big guy with a small guy, things like that for obvious reasons. But so one more time, I'm here, shoulders down and back, abs are braced, and as I press to the left, evenly with both hands, I can feel those abs fire. Specifically, when I'm pressing to the left, you'll feel those right obliques really fire up. This version of the rotation exercise is going to involve some medicine balls. This is personally one of my favorite. And a lot of clients like it too. People just like throwing things. So ideally you're going to have some sort of wall. A concrete wall is best. We've made do with just putting up some plyo boxes. It works. It's not the best scenario, but you'll definitely be able to see the movements, which is the important thing as far as the breakdown of the proper mechanics. And again, if you have outdoor space with a cement wall or concrete wall, that would be a great option for this. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to show there's a couple different variations, and a lot of it depends actually on the type of ball and the type of surface that you're using. Again, most people are going to be throwing against a concrete wall. And the two most popular options for med balls, there's three. There's the bouncy rubber balls, which I actually don't have here at my facility. There's also these kind of jam balls or dead balls that don't have a whole lot of recoil to them. And then there's the Dynamax ones, which have a bit of bounce back. This is just a 6-pounder. It's light, but it's just so I can show you the variations between the two balls. And depending on what you're going after, I think is going to determine which ball you use, and I'll explain that in a minute here. So this one here, I like with more general population client. If we're just going for some repetitions, it's going to give you some bounce back, so you don't have to be really close to it. You can really let it go, and then you have to get your hands ready, catch that ball, and focus on deceleration as well. A lot of times with rotational movements, we just think of, if you're swinging a bat, swinging a racket, that you're just going this direction, but you need to get your body back in position as well. So there's that bringing the body back to that center of gravity, that center position as well. It's real important. I've worked with a lot of combat athletes over the years, and that's almost more important than the power of the punch. Yes, that's important, but if you throw a punch and leave your arm out there and don't bring it back, you're very susceptible for a counter or things like that. So they need to get their hand back quickly to protect if someone that their opponent is going to counter. So in this position, in this instance, that's why I like this ball, because you got to catch it and be ready to bring it back to go again. So there's that deceleration component, being ready for the rebound, that is really important in this scenario. So I'll show a few repetitions right now. So I'm here, same setup as before for the lower body, slight bend in hips and knees. And this is another one that's going to involve the whole body. So I'm not just using my shoulders and abs. I'm rotating from the hips, pivoting off that back foot and getting the whole movement involved. A punch really truly does involve, or an upper or throw if you're pitching a baseball, hitting a tennis racket. It's truly a full body movement. It truly does come, I feel, from the ground up. I mean, the hips are the powerhouse, but you generate a lot of that power from the ground through the feet all the way up before you let it go. Release it with the hands. So getting that whole body involved, I'm going to show a few. So you can see when I throw, I've got to stay here ready, bring the ball back. Okay, so I've got to decelerate that ball to get back into position. Okay. So I get it back, I'm ready to go again. So a big difference, and if we were to use one of those common medicine balls that are rubber, hollow inside, that have a lot of bounce back to them, those are going to bounce back really quickly. This one here, the dead ball, jam ball, isn't really going to bounce back at all, you'll see. It just falls right down. So we don't have that deceleration component at all. So depending on what you're going after, is going to determine, like I said, which tool you're going to use. If we're just going for just all-out power and speed, and we don't want to have to worry about that bounce back, then this is going to be my ball of choice. I can throw the ball a lot harder and faster with this because I'm not concerned about it coming back. So here, I can just let it go, get it reset. So for more of if we're going after more of a power movement, base movement here, for however, probably fewer reps, 3 to 5 reps. I'm going to have my athlete or my client get set, load up that outside hip. Okay, like I said before, it's coming from the ground up, so we're driving off this outside leg, loading that hip, and really letting it go. Okay, and then I'll have them reset. Where again, versus this one, where I can't throw quite as hard, because I have to be ready for that ball to bounce back. Okay. So I'm ready. So that's more of a repetitive movement there. So there's just the variations that you should be aware of depending on your ball of choice. This rotation variation is going to involve the sandbag. So this one's a little bit unique. It's another one that's a full body movement. It's actually going to do a lunge pattern, which obviously is very common for the lower body. But we're going to involve more of a dynamic hip extension Think of almost like kettlebell swing, and going to utilize that momentum of the swing to help rotate that bag up and over to the other side of the body. So it's a full body movement truly, but there's a lot of rotation involved. This is another one that involves a lot of deceleration as well, which I love. So I'll show it without the bag first, and then I'll do a few reps with. So in a reverse lunge pattern, where we're stepping back, okay, and then coming up, and this is the movement here, that reverse lunge. So I bring that back foot, step back, okay, slight bend in that back knee, and then come up to a standing position, bringing the hips all the way through to full hip extension. So when we add this weighted bag here, we're going to get a much more dynamic extension of the hips. Going to bring the bag down here to this position. So when the bag comes down, I have to really focus on bracing. Almost think about decelerating, and then with the hips and the arms, the whole body truly extending and bringing that bag up and then down to the other side. Okay? Show a few repetitions for you.